Another month has gone by and I creep relentlessly closer to death. But in the meantime, there's lots of adorable baby dinosaurs to look at thanks to Prehistoric Kingdom's heartbreaking new dev diary for the month of February. Let's take a look. Before we dig right in, a brief mention of their Patreon. Now I know a lot of you have joined up already, it seems to be doing really well, but I'm going to bring it up again because it gives you previews of all the baby dinosaurs, behind the scenes informations, that was nearly English, and other general pictures like this shot of a teeny tiny Dilophosaurus. We're going to see this again later in the video, do not panic, we'll see it in better quality, but either way, if you would like to support the dev team, if you're able to safely yourself, then you can do so at this link, patreon.com/bluemeridian. Onwards. Onwards to many babies, a sentence that has surely got me put on a list somewhere. Today's video is mainly going to focus on that new ontogeny system because they're really showing it off today with a veritable smorgasbord of babies. And there's that list again. We've got gremlin-y little ceratopsids, decrested hadrosaurs, fluffy dryosaurs, slinky dilophosaurs, and still for me personally, the most heartbreaking of them all, that chunky ball of fluff of Velociraptor on the far right side. As it stands, 40 of the 58 species in the game have complete or almost complete baby forms, and they've recently, makes him sound like a superhero, I activate baby form anyways, and they've recently been working on the tech to make their growth even more believable. Growing animals now adopt new IKs. IKs are inverse kinematics, it's just how they place their feet and how their body moves in response to the world. They're going to adopt new nav meshes, and that's how they navigate the world. You know, where they can go, where they can walk, where they can squeeze in and where they can't. And new hitboxes as well, to name just a few. And look, tech! This is assumedly the new stretchy collision system, ensuring that a juvenile and an adult don't necessarily collide with the same object. Makes a lot of sense, but not necessarily as easy to implement as it is to say it out loud. Reminder that all these new babies are coming in the next major update, and that major update is less than 2 months away in April. And now, what you're all here for. Pictures of babies. I'm not saying that. What do you mean I scripted it? Anyway, oh, it's been a long day. Anyway, pictures of juvenile animals, lots of them. There's a lot to see, so, you know, pause on a picture if you want to obsess over them a little bit longer. Paraceratherium is first up, maintaining much of the morphology I would suggest of its older kin, but as you're going to see with the majority of these baby creatures, it's got those big wide eyes and the ears that are far too large for their itty bitty skulls. The Paraceratherium's alternate animal is the Juxia, and it is largely the same. Again, it's kind of retaining the morphology of its adult form here with those couple of changes, but flitting from Para to this really makes Juxia seem like a sort of punk rock alternative to the Paraceratherium, with that spiky hair that even on the baby version is very prominent. Our first proper look at a baby hadrosaurid comes to us with the Parasaurolophus and its alternate animal Caronosaurus. As you can see, they've got different skin patterns to differentiate from each other as they grow and morph with age. And that's a nice little addition because, as we've talked about before, adults of the same skin will have the same skin as a baby, but at least the alternate species are going to be a little bit differentiated, and so will the same skin babies, as we'll see in a little bit. Either way, these are a little heartbreaking, the one in the middle in particular with those giant eyes and that little developing crest. You can just see it beginning to sprout up. It's very cute. And then there's this thing. This is Dinokairos, described rather aptly as scrunkly in the dev diary. It really does resemble the sort of awkward, half-naked juvenile you see in modern birds, which is a perfect fit for such a uniquely bizarre dinosaur. And as a bonus, it allowed the dev team to bring a classic meme to prehistoric life. Now, a lot of these ones have been revealed on the Patreon over the month, but thankfully we do get a peek at them here as well. The baby woolly rhino we can see with its undeveloped horn and much reduced hump and bulk. It's not just a reduction in mass, it's in very specific places where it's more reduced than its adult form. The baby Dilophosaurus still retains some of that newborn feathering, unlike most of their adult counterparts. Even your scaly adult Dilophosauruses are going to be feathered as babies, something we would assume would be the case for quite a lot of dinosaurs. And of course they also lack that evocative cresting and coloration that would follow in the years to come. As you can see here, and on some of the other pics if you're eagle-eyed, that dimorphism is still in play. All three of these babies have the same skin. They may grow up into different skinned Dilophosauruses, but they've got the same skin as babies. However, they have notably different coloration between each other. Another new reveal, the Dinosaurs, with their all-white coloration pockmarked by black eyes and the first hint of striping via those scales along the tail. They really resemble a lot of modern avian dinosaurs which, within a few months of hatching, are essentially balls of white fluff. The Velociraptor we've shared pics of before, but any excuse to take another look at them really. Despite all the new additions, I think this is still my favourite of the bunch. I can't get over how much I love these little velos. And finally, Megaloceros. These have been somewhat redesigned since their earlier appearance to better resemble a modern baby deer, and they look pretty good for it. They've got this fallow deer-esque spotting, which is really prominent in particular as juveniles, along with that classic big ears, big eyes, big menace energy that the others are bringing. Now, before we move away from this entirely, I've got 3 videos to show you now of this ontogeny system in action on myriad different animals. Keep in mind, this has been vastly sped up, so there may be issues here and there, but it should give you a good impression of how these animals will morph over time. For me, it's almost disconcerting how smooth these transformations are. With all that said, we must move on from the babies. But there are more cool additions to Update 14 rather than just this system, such as this system, the further individualization of alternate species. One such given example is Smilodon populator and Smilodon fatalis, with the former being bulked up with that more prominent shoulder, thicker face and musculature, to the point where, as you can see in this shot, it's now essentially twice the size of its smaller counterpart. It's more that fatalis has been shrunk rather than populator's grown. But it's not just measurements and bulk. The fatalis has gained a new ruft of hair sprouting out of its cheeks to differentiate it further from the populator species. There's going to be quite a few animals that have little changes like this. They won't always be so noticeable, but they are trying to further differentiate their alternate species. For example, they are even more pronounced, I would say, with the Camarasaurus, which now has 3 distinct species that differ far more than in just their skin patterning. As you can see here, they come in 3 different sizes, ranging from grandis to lentus up to supremus. But the changes don't just stop there. Things like the size of the spikes along the back, for example, are different between the species. And there's also been remodels done to the skull shapes to differentiate them further. Grandis in particular now stands out as looking really unique, while Supremus and Lentus have these kind of Brachiosaurid-esque skull shapes with those prominent nasal crests. As exciting as all this is, one of my most anticipated changes to Update 14 is the addition of a first-person walking mode. Prehistoric Kingdom's dev team, as they all want to do, have taken it a little bit further than most other devs do, with the addition of a few mechanics you'll see in this clip, including opening doors, sitting on benches, and looking through binoculars. The technology is real. This is a lovely level of interactivity though, and I know they have plans for even more, including potentially some park and exhibit maintenance akin to Zoo Tycoon 2, maybe feeding the animals, stuff like that. Probably not quite as far as Zoo Tycoon Cough 3, but still. I will say I wish there was some head bobbing and the like to kind of make it feel less like a floating camera, even if that's an optional toggle for people who get a little sick with that kind of thing. But this is still a couple of months away, so who knows what the final result will look like. Along with all of this, there's also some notable gameplay changes landing with Update 14. All animals will now be created simultaneously, no waiting for one to breed or hatch before the next one begins. They may slow down a little bit to accommodate for this. The animal point system is being rebalanced to basically reward mass, with the largest animals typically being worth more points. This will even apply though on an interspecies basis, wherein your larger specimens of one animal will be worth more than your smaller ones. Basically, they're just straight up saying size does matter and we're not ashamed by it. Some wide-ranging animals like Edmontosaurus and some mammals will now be found in multiple dig sites, with progress carrying between them. And finally, staff are going to be a bit smarter, because they're stupid. Good for them. That is it for the Update 14 goodness. But before we go, we've got yet another preview of some of the paleobotany aspects coming to the game down the line. As a reminder, this is not in Update 14, but in a later, as of yet unnamed update. Maybe Update 15. Crazy. Still, trees. Dead trees, technically. Spooky. I'd be lying if I said this was something I'm particularly knowledgeable about, but it's a really nice addition for park realism, assumedly for your animal happiness, and to please all the paleobotany nerds out there. The likes of the cycads, in particular in the final image we'll see here, absolutely scream prehistoric, and are going to make building era-appropriate habitats all the more possible, which could only be a good thing. And that's it for this dev diary. We're going to have another one before this update lands, so I'm really curious what they'll be highlighting at the end of March. And of course, when Update 14 lands, we'll be back with a big highlight video. Stick around for some more dinosaur nonsense. Throw me a like if you're cool, or even if you're not, that's alright as well. I mean, I talk about dinosaur video games for a living, for God's sake. And subscribe for, well, more dinosaur nonsense. All of this was scripted. Thank you for joining me. Cheers, much love as always. Bye-bye.